Technology allows people to communicate with others faster and easier than ever before. Videos and text messages have increased public awareness and ability to respond. Here are 3 reasons why the militia responded to Bundy Ranch, Nevada in 2014.
The U.S. Constitution.
U.S. Supreme Court rulings.
Tactical response and operations standards. Reason 1.
On a bridge in Bunkerville, holding high-power scoped rifles, these men took cover, prepared to shoot, prepared to die.
Here to protect our freedom.
New fallout from the showdown in the West. Why Judge Napolitano says this administration's appetite for intimidation against the American people is something like we've never seen.
Government just keep taking more and more federal government. Today, that's for the free men of America.
The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution grants the right to bear arms against a tyrant government.
Reason 2. U.S. Constitution and Supreme Court say officers are required to back down.
Deadly force constitutional standards. There are 2 circumstances in which an officer can use deadly force. The first is, to protect their life or the life of another innocent party, known as the defense of life standard. The second is, to prevent a suspect from escaping, but only if the officer has probable cause to think the suspect poses a dangerous threat to others.
The law does not say officers can use deadly force to make a suspect comply with commands.
The deaths at Ruby Ridge, Idaho and Waco, Texas were due to suspects not following commands.
The essence of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on the use of force speaks to a measure of safety and preventing loss of life. These rulings reinforce the need to leave the scene as being a reasonable option for officers.
The use of force. The 2 most important rulings by the U.S. Supreme Court on police use of force as it relates to the Fourth Amendment are
1. Graham v. Connor. 2. Tennessee v. Garner. In Graham, the Supreme Court established what has become known as the objectively reasonable standard when it held that the reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene. Any judgment must allow for the fact that police officers are often forced to make split-second judgments, intense, uncertain and rapidly evolving circumstances, about the amount of force necessary in a particular situation. In Garner, the court held that when a police officer is pursuing a fleeing suspect, he or she may not use deadly force to prevent escape unless the officer has probable cause to believe that the suspect poses a significant threat of death or serious physical injury to the officer or others. Officers who use deadly force on a fleeing felon must be able to articulate probable cause that the subject posed a significant threat of death or serious physical injury at the time of the use of force.
U.S. Supreme Court definitions. Objectively reasonable is a way that is not influenced by personal feelings or opinions. Reasonable officer, a person having sound judgment, fair and sensible. Reasoning is the capacity of consciously making sense of things, establishing and verifying facts, applying logic, and adapting or justifying practices, institutions, and beliefs based on new or existing information.
Officers cannot create the need for deadly force. Escalating force against a non-complying suspect to a point of deadly force is excessive force.
Officers might not be prepared to resolve the problem safely at the scene. The U.S. Constitution and Supreme Court legal standards and definitions say leaving the scene and preparing a plan to make an unannounced arrest at a safe place is what reasonable officers do.
Reason 3. The National Tactical Officers Association's Tactical Response and Operations Standard Manual for law enforcement agencies explain the steps taken for arresting a known violent suspect.
The purpose of an unannounced arrest is to apprehend a suspect quickly and safely before the suspect is aware that law enforcement is at the scene and now has control.
Officers on 48 hours demonstrate the arrest of a violent suspect.
The warrant in hand, the team turns to the Special Operations Unit to help hunt down Thomas Lamb.
All right, we're going to execute a high-risk warrant today out in New Orleans East for a subject by the name of Thomas Lamb.
Thomas Lamb has been identified as the perpetrator in the murder of a 44-year-old grandmother and shooting of her 4-year-old grandson. We are convoying out to the target location for Mr. Lamb with our Special Operations Unit.
They'll go in with overwhelming force so that before the person realizes what happens, they're in. They've got the situation under control.
Right here, right here.
There it is up there on the right, huh?
Yep.
With the white CRV, that's our target.
All right, on my count. 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's go.
Hold it for the board! Hold it for the board!
All right, move.
Hold it for the board! Hold it for the board! Hold it! Come out! Come out!
Here we go. Target's in custody.
Excellent.